To another episode of the Viva El Birdos podcast. I am your host, Jake Wood, as always, and with me tonight is fellow writer Gabe Simons, and joining us tonight are special guests Nate Heininger and Ben Smorka of Talking About Birds. You can find them on all of social media at Talking About Birds. Talking about birds, not burns. Nate, Ben, how you guys doing tonight? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for having us. It's I think I told you this when you joined our show, but Viva El Birdos plays a very special and important part in sort of my Cardinal fandom history. It was one of the early sites that got me into like sabermetrics and looking at the game at a deeper level. So it's fun to be here. Thanks for having us.
I'm doing well, Jake.
So you guys do your own show. It's called Talking About Birds. I was wondering if, you guys could kind of give us a little bit of the origins of Talking About Birds, how it started, and just kind of, you guys are over 200 episodes in now. Just kind of, run through it for us, how it started and like who came up with the initial idea and kind of where you guys have been able to go with it from there.
Wow. I don't know if I can actually answer that question.
Yeah.
Can you?
Well, we've this is technically our second run at it. We actually started the original run of Talking About Birds, I think in 2012, somewhere around that time. At that time, there were very few Cardinal podcasts. There were some, though. Our good friend C70 was out there, had probably been doing it for 9 years already. But, there were certainly some out there, but there weren't many. And Ben and I have, spent a lifetime. We're cousins, so we've unfortunately known each other our entire lives. Or rather, Ben's known me his whole life. I've known him for most of my life.
That's a good, it's good to set that clear.
Gotta clarify.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And we lived together for a while. We have talked about baseball for a very long time. And I think both just enjoy that. Like, to me, part of being into sports is chatting about it, talking about it, getting into debates, arguments, etc. And I don't remember exactly how we came up with the name Talking About Birds or who exactly decided we should do a podcast. But I think around that time, we were both getting into podcasts in general. And with the lack of seemingly of many Cardinal podcasts, we thought, well, why don't we do it? And we started with the absolutely unobtainable goal of doing a podcast after every Cardinals series.
Yes.
So that was phase one of Talking About Birds.
Which it's scheduling that. We sucked. It was terrible. We'd have to try to remember what happened in every game. We were not good. We're not ready for that.
No, and Ben lived down the street from me. So like every 3 nights, basically, I would carry 2 microphones, a stand, and I'd walk down, we'd record in the same room. Audio was bad. At one point I had the microphone, I don't know if you remember this, Ben, but I had the microphone hung over your ceiling fan in your living room. So it dangled right in front of my face and I'd talk into it that way. So anyway, for a lot of reasons, the original run of Talking About Birds wasn't sustainable. And we kind of petered out and just sort of stopped doing it. I don't even think there was ever really a discussion. We just kind of stopped scheduling it.
This sucks. We suck. Let's be done. Yeah.
Well, we were never particularly good at it. And so some reason about 4 years ago, Ambone and I here, very different places in our lives from when we had tried to do it the first time, started talking about, well, maybe we should do the show again. And we created a totally more sustainable format. And now we're here. We're at like 208 episodes in a row. We release.
I know we're 4 years. Are we at 4 years? Does that sound right?
This will be our 4th season that we're covering, but we run all year.
Sorry about that. But yeah, and I guess like like you said at the top, Nate, I think that like, we're come from like baseball families. Like we both played a little bit. Nate's brother was actually pretty good, but we were not athletes. And I think just like, growing up, I think we're all around the same age. Growing up in St. Louis around the time with these great teams, we just got addicted. And then sites like Viva El Birdos and Fangraphs and other ones, we just, the nerd part of our brains dug in deeper and deeper. And now we're sitting here right now today.
And I think we both are also really into sort of absurd comedy podcasts as well. And I don't think we do a good job at that side of it, but I
No.
do think we try to bring a little bit of that stupid, like you're sitting in a bar with your friends, everyone's yelling at each other, being idiots. I think a lot of sports media takes itself way too seriously. And so we try to be like your idiot friends that actually know what they're talking about when it comes to baseball, but they're going to, well, actually, that's probably going too far. Between the two of us, we can get there with a
No,
point,
and I think
but
you guys
we like
both
to at least
do
have
a
fun while
really
we're doing it.
terrific job with, kind of combining the sports and like in-depth analysis with the entertainment and the comedy aspect of it as well. It's one of my favorite listens, and it's routine for me. Beyond just listening to the show, you guys have this whole like extra element to, fans of the show are able to kind of all congregate together and talk about the Cardinals and or whatever is happening across baseball, or just kind of whatever is on anybody's mind, really. So what kind of led you guys to creating that and kind of going that avenue?
Yeah, a couple things. So I think primarily, I think pretty burnt out and done with the standard style of social media at this point, where you're just, well, I don't need to go into that, but not really into most social media right now. But I really like talking to people about baseball. I like talking to people that I don't know about baseball. I like getting other people's opinions. Like, I want to engage with a social media type environment, but with people that actually like are humans on the other side that want to talk to you about the thing that you want to talk about. And so, you can get that kind of in some communities on certain social media, but for the most part, it's few and far between. And so we thought, well, with the podcast, why don't we try to make our own? I think that's kind of the future of most social media anyway, is these like communities, these found communities. And so we thought that would work. And also, frankly, it's a part of our Patreon. It's part of our whole thing. It's part of how we're kind of building our little community around the show.
Yeah, and speaking,
Hambone doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you said, Nate. You nailed it. I can't believe how well of a job you did at describing it. But yeah, I think we have it's great because we have people from all over the country, a few people
out of the country,
international folks.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of like-minded, and people are smart and sweet and nice, and it's great. Yeah.
We have someone in the Birds Gourd who grew up in Cooperstown. Like, in Cooperstown, and it was fascinating to learn all about that. And I would have never.
And their opinion is like, it's gone to hell.
It's not what you would think about growing up in Cooperstown.
Yeah,
sounds shitty, which is not what I would expect. So it's like, that's a good example. It's like it's actually real people that you engage with, real conversation on the other side.
Now, speaking of the Patreon itself, you guys have different tiers, right, for different kinds of listeners that get different kinds of access to you guys. And the very top of the tier of on your Patreon is the Bill DeWitt tier. Can you talk a little bit about your very unique way that you built your Patreon and the Bill DeWitt tier specifically?
All right, this is not a bit. We're not being funny.
Deadly
if you
serious.
Give us $1.5 million for 1 month, we will stop podcasting forever. We'll throw our microphones away, burn the tapes. We'll do whatever you want.
We'll be done. It's as simple as that. It's just, we need one subscriber at the Bill DeWitt tier for one. It's pocket change to that guy. He sneezes and $1.5 million comes out. So that's all we're asking. We have other tiers, but that's really that's the key one.
It's the one that we're here to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for teeing it up.
If nothing else, I got to make sure that any rich investors that invest in Viva El Birdos hears this and removes the smut that exists, or not smut, sorry, the entertainment value that's and there's the word. He said the word.
Hey, you know what? Frankly, you can call me whatever you want, Jake. Pay that 1.5 million and I don't care. We're done. We're gone. You can talk about me as much as you want.
Enough about you guys. Let's get into some actual baseball conversation. I know that Gabe is kind of chomping at the bit to kind of get into.
There we go. Yeah.
The Cardinals this week signed Ramon Urias, infielder, to a 1-year, $1.2 million contract, or I'm sorry, $1.5 million contract, with about $2 million, I believe it was, in incentives. Gabe, I'll throw it over to you first, just to kind of get you engaged and involved here. What were your initial thoughts of them bringing in Urias, and kind of what do you think it means about the rest of the infield mix as a whole?
Well, I assume he's not signed to start. Otherwise, it'd be a really weird move. But he's not being paid starter money either, so I think that's a pretty safe assumption. I wonder if he's here to sort of platoon with Nolan Gorman, and maybe it also suggests that Thomas Ajayci and Jose Fermin are going to be in the outfield a lot more than we think, especially if Nupar is on the injured list for an extended amount of time. Or if he specifically might be getting sent to Memphis, or somebody that we expected to make the team will get sent to Memphis. Jose Fermin would have to get DFA'd, so I would think they would want to give him a shot with how well he played in AAA in some fashion. But yeah, it's interesting because it does give them more depth than they had, but it also probably means some fringy guys going to get less plate appearances than we expected.
Yeah,
so I'm okay with it though. I wish we kept him 6 years ago.
You mentioned, Jose Fermin specifically, and Ben, Fermin for you is kind of somebody that you have championed a little bit whenever on your guys' own show. What would it mean to you if, like, the signing of Urias meant it cost Fermin the opportunity?
Well, I could talk for a long time about this, but I think Jose Fermin has done everything to deserve every at-bat that the Cardinals can afford him in 2026. He's put up above a 144 URC plus in 2 of the last minor league seasons. I think his defense is just fine enough. He's walking at a high rate. The idea of Urias taking at-bats away from Fermin is, I think that's the worst thing that could happen, maybe in the history of the world. I don't know if there's anything worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I agree with Gabe. I think the signing of Urias makes sense because really Fermin, Pages, Walker, and Mason Wynn are outside of Ivan Herrera. We don't really have a right-handed bat that it either has a lot of experience or offers a lot of confidence. So I think getting a guy who does that is really good. I also think that there is a non-zero chance that Nolan Gorman is really bad at third base and can't hit, he's rocking a WRC plus below 60 or 70, and it's just an absolute black hole. And then you're left with a couple of options. You move JJ over there and you put Fermin or somebody else at second base, or you lean on Sajasi or something like that. Or you pull up somebody from the minors who's maybe not ready. I don't know what you do with Gorman at that point. But I think it's really the oh shit handle for if Gorman's bottom falls out. And then I also think, technically he has a little bit of pop, right? Like he can hit the ball over the wall sometimes. And his glove is okay. So that's... On the Fermin side of it, he should be playing a lot of left field. He should be playing a lot of third base. I'm even fine with first base and DH, but I think Urias makes sense for all of those other reasons.
If Gorman's bottom drops out, we got a problem. It's a big dumper, you know what I'm saying?
We know he eats a lot of popcorn, high fiber food.
He does have an option, I believe, so they could just send him down.
Nolan Gorman, yeah.
Does
Gorman's
he still
got two
have an
options.
Wow.
He's got 2 options remaining, at least according to Roster Resource. But would they do that? Is that weird? Would they send Gorman down?
I mean, if he had a below 70 WRC plus in like June, I would imagine that would be on the table at least. But
yeah,
maybe lose the whole year and then DFA him at the end of the year if he's really that bad.
Yeah, I do think it's a big question is what is the leash on someone like Gorman? Because I think Urias is basically the break glass. Gorman is collapsing. We need someone to play third base and be okay at it while we reassess what our other options are. What's our long-term strategy here?
He can play first base, when you want to get Burley off of his feet and you don't want to use Ivan Herrera. So, I think I said this in the Bird Squad, but he is inarguably a right-handed baseball player.
No one can argue with that.
No one can
for
argue
sure.
that. And I really like, I don't know. Can Nolan Gorman play third base? Is what it's been a while.
Yeah, he looked terrible last year, but I don't know. I'm curious if that was the yips, because his throws were so bad that I was like, is something like mentally something affecting him? So that would be something to monitor this year if Gorman's throws continue to be like, oh God, he can't play the field, or put him at first base or something.
Yeah. His 2 months while Arenado was down was so bad that I'm frankly still a little surprised that he's just walking into camp as the presumptive third base starter. I know they don't have a lot of options, and you still want to dream on the upside, but I think at the time last year we were all at least feeling like this is the shot. This is what this is what we've been waiting for, as an extended period of Gorman at third. And I know it was not like a full season, but it wasn't not a lot of time there. And there wasn't really a single stretch where it felt like, okay, there it is. Like, that's what we're dreaming for. It was kind of just, oh no. Oh no, it looks bad and is bad. And I'm a Gorman guy. I like Gorman.
Yeah.
I want him to be, he's been one of my favorite. We've been talking about it on our show all the time. We got a bad case of Gormania. It's spreading. You know what I mean? The creams aren't helping, but like, it was bad last year.
But yeah, he was -6, or no, sorry, he was -9 outs above average, 410 innings. That's Jordan Walker in his rookie season bad, basically.
For Chaim Bloom and Ali Marmal's point of view, I understand that it is a good idea to have an actual third baseman in case Nolan Gorman deteriorates to dust. But is it like, why not give those at bats to Fermin or Sajaci or Flex JJ over there or whoever? Like, I don't really see the value other than it's good to have an actual third baseman on your team, which I do think is a valid argument. But in this season, the Cardinals, if they don't have it kind of behooves the Cardinals to be bad at third base.
So I've been saying this whole offseason is that I'm like, not unless this mystical right-handed bat had some version of an upside, even like an Andujar who's like, well, he mashes lefties or something like that. I don't really understand the value of bringing in someone, because like you said, it's just taking away from understanding the future of guys like Fermin and Sajaci. And Ramon Urias is basically exactly the thing that I was thinking is not really worth it. Feels like if you are in that break glass situation where Gorman's bad, Sajaci can't play third, we don't want to move JJ, there's gotta be a guy out there that, like, Ramon Urias might still have just been out there if we hadn't signed him right now, so why do the 26-man spot? Send poor Zak Kent back on the bus again. Why go through all of this for Ramon Urias? But I guess like, you just don't want to have that uncertainty already day one, and it'll be nice to have a righty to allow Gorman to sit against Chris Sale or whatever, and not be made a fool. Do we have Jake back?
I have Jake back, at least. Jake and Harris.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, dropped out, so did exactly what I said I was going to do. What did I miss?
We kept talking, Jake. We decided to just keep going on Ramon Urias, and I got to say, it was maybe the best 3 minutes of the Viva El Birdos podcast that's ever existed.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Gonna have to figure something else out here. Anyway, so I want to get back to the question that I threw over to Ben about Jose Fermin, to kind of get us back into the flow of everything. Your thoughts on if Fermin getting dumped from the roster as a way to add Urias, how would you feel about that?
I'll say it now and I'll say it again. I'll say it 1,000 times, Jake. If they dump him from the roster for Urias, I'm burning this place down. I'm violence. I'm acting out violently towards everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel very poorly about that. Can I just talk about Jose Fermin's numbers for just a little second? And I want to compare him to a recently departed Cardinal. He's alive. He's on a different team now. Sorry. Brendan Donovan. You guys remember him? I think he plays for the Mariners now.
Who?
I'll enlighten you a little bit. So before Brendan Donovan came up, when he was in the minors, he had two back-to-back years where he put up a 131 WRC plus throughout his various minor league levels, and 137 light power. His power kind of grew as he went along that. Not a great defender, but he was putting up those level of numbers. In the last two seasons for Fermin, it's been 145, 147. Basically the same numbers, a little bit of power. He's increased his on-base percentage. I kind of view, they're almost the same age when Brendan Donovan came up. I kind of think that they're on the same track. I'm not saying that Jose Fermin is going to be an all-star anytime soon, but I think that he is growing his offensive profile, and his lack of defense is kind of almost a tool for him right now because he can kind of flex anywhere. I could see him becoming a 2 to 3.5 Fangraphs WAR player for the Cardinals relatively soon. I think he's on the same trajectory that Brendan Donovan was a handful of years ago.
I love that optimism.
Interesting.
Thank you.
I love it.
So Nate, Nate, I want to throw it over to you. I looked up some numbers. Ramon Urias in the last 3 seasons versus left-handed pitching. In 2023, he put up an 85 WRC plus and 124 plate appearances. In 2024, he put up a 139 WRC plus and 89 plate appearances. And in 2025, he put up a 108 WRC plus and 118 plate appearances. This was all against left-handed pitching. What do you think that his role is merely just as a platoon option, or do you think that there's more there that he could play himself into? Obviously,
no. I frankly still struggle to understand the purpose of Urias right now on this team. I understand you want some degree of a security blanket in case everybody fails, and you want a guy who knows how to stand at a position. But with the Cardinals right now, I think every plate appearance, every at-bat, everything is about finding upside, chasing upside, and securing those slots for the future. And I don't really see where he helps us there outside of, well, you just have to have a guy standing there. And if Gorman goes down and Sajaci goes down, you don't want to accidentally impact the development of another player by bringing them up too soon or moving like JJ over to third and screwing with him in his rookie season, things like that. Like, I get that, having a guy there who can do what you ask him to do. But it seems to me like that guy would have been available at any point. I wonder if we were the first ones to call Urias. You know, he was still there, and it was a very cheap contract, so he might have been available in June if this was needed. So I mean, I get it. Like, there's worse guys to have, and it might be nice to have him out there every once in a while just to give guys days off and things like that. But nothing really stands out to me for him specifically, and I wonder how much. You know, if we weren't in a rebuilding year and they brought in Ramon Urias, and it's like, well, sure, he's the 26th man. You could do a lot worse. You want to protect your player development system, that sort of thing. I'd say, okay, sure, fine. He's going to get 60 plate appearances. He's going to chug, with the crew in the clubhouse because he's a good guy, and he's going to slap a bunch of butts, and we're all going to have a good time with him. That's fine. But every plate appearance he takes away from Sajaci, Gorman, Fermin, whoever, it just doesn't feel like a good use of time.
And the other, I guess, most unfortunate person in all of this is Zak Kent, who the Cardinals had just brought back again off of waivers after DFAing him to bring in Brian Ramos, I believe it was. That's the order of operations. It was Ramos. No, wait. Am I getting this wrong?
I'm not going to be able to remember.
I think it's been 4 transactions, I think, with Kent. It was like they signed him, then they dropped him for someone else. Then they signed him again. Then they signed Ramos, which they dropped him. And then they just dropped Ramos and brought Kent back, I think.
Right. And now they're dropping Kent again for Urias.
Yeah.
Now, is there anyone who's logged more frequent flyer miles this offseason than Zak Kent? Or like what? I feel so bad for the guy, but also like I I don't think he's been designated as many times as Kent was.
You got
Only
to think.
twice, right?
What
Well, he was.
I keep thinking about the experience of either him or his agent. I don't know exactly how this goes, but you see the phone ringing, and it's like, oh, it's the Cardinals. Okay, cool. Like the first call, like, all right, Zach, we got you a job. You've been signed with the Cardinals. And then it's like a day later, like, Cardinals are calling again. Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Then dropped a week later. Oh, Cardinals are calling again. Okay, all right, we're back, Zach. We're back. Get pack your bags, and rinse and repeat. Like you got to just go straight to like just text me next time. Stop calling me.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Just, not really all that important, but I did find out that apparently a player has to remain, Chaim said this himself, a player has to remain on the roster for a minimum 48 hours before they can be dropped again in terms of like a waiver pickup. And so at least 2 days before apparently is the technical rule behind that. But still, just really unfortunate for him. I don't, foresee him being anything more than, relief depth. But again, just really unfortunate for him. I guess for me, what has been the most, as I think of the Brendan Donovan move and bringing in the Rays in that way, I think of, like taking a chance on a Dustin May, somebody who's got stuff more than, a high floor. What has it been like for you guys experiencing, Chaim Bloom do his thing this offseason as compared to what we've experienced in recent past off seasons for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I would say the most surprising move so far to me is actually the lack thereof for Jojo Romero. To me, he was one of the most obvious, like easy trades to get done this offseason. And whereas Chaim has pulled off all of the more complicated ones, moving Arenado, finding someone for Wilson Contreras, moving Sonny Gray, all these big money deals that required obviously pretty elaborate negotiations. I mean, I think ended in pretty good spots for the St. Louis Cardinals. The fact that our very good reliever with 1 year of control, the most tradable thing in baseball usually, he's still with the team, has been pretty surprising to me. So we'll see how that plays out. But I really thought he was going to be one of the first ones gone. As far as the other broader question, it has been really interesting. I think in a lot of ways, first and foremost, quite satisfying just to see someone come in, lay out a plan, and be very consistent and constant in executing that plan. We can make a lot of jokes about the minor moves like Zak Kent and Ramon Urias and stuff like that. But broadly speaking, he said if faced with a decision of either prioritizing right now or prioritizing the future, I'm going to prioritize the future. And I think we've seen that on just about every single move. And so it's been really nice after a few years of lackluster management from the St. Louis Cardinals front office to see someone come in, have a clear plan, and execute it has been really, really nice. Now, that said, to be fair to Mo and co, I do think like a teardown is an easier thing to pull off in an off season than what the Cardinals were trying to do from 2021 to 2024 of this like constant patchwork system of standing up a dying core, now you could argue they shouldn't have done that in the first place, and that's a failure of ownership and the front office and whatnot for even getting in that spot. But the fact that they decided to do that and then really struggled to execute it has been pretty painful to watch for a while now. So I think I'm just pretty satisfied and excited to see a clear plan that's being executed. Will it work? We all certainly hope so. That's the next part, but that's my takeaway so far.
Yeah, I think if I had to pick the most surprising, I'm going to go back to the Nolan Arenado trade, just because there was a feeling earlier this winter where, like, at least on our show, we were bending over backwards to try to understand why, or try to morph a situation in which Nolan Arenado would say yes to joining the Angels, a team that's clearly not in contention, or who would trade for him or what he would agree to. There were so many little boxes that needed to be checked for that to happen. And obviously the Cardinals had to give away a lot of money to make that happen. But I think the fact that he was able to do that was surprising and amazing. And I guess another generally surprising and amazing thing is like the way in which he has helped the DeWitts understand that they can spend their money more efficiently by moving these guys and essentially buying prospects. I think that's kind of a magic trick that Chaim has done. And I don't know, my memory is I don't think he really had that skill at the Red Sox, or at least I don't remember it specifically, but he is, for however he's done it, he has had the conversation with the DeWitts to get that through their heads and get them on board. So I think that's great. And I think the thing that I am most feeling like energized and good about the changing of the guard, the way that Chaim is going about it, as opposed to Mo and Co., other than things that I said and Nate hit on, which I agree with, is he's getting we've gotten 30 guys added to the guys, 100 guys. I don't know how many guys have come into the organization. And Chaim and the group, they're grabbing guys that they think that they can develop, that have high-end talent, putting faith in their new group, their new brain trust, and letting those guys go develop them. And hopefully, we were talking about this on the show last week. If 10% of these prospects work out or affect the big league club, we're doing great. We're having a great time. This is a really fun team to watch. If they figure out how to get Brandon Clark to throw a pitch over the plate consistently, that's going to be fun. We have Liam Doyle. We have all these names and guys that you can dream on. I'm feeling very good about that.
If we could get Brandon Clark to throw a pitch, period.
Oh, yeah. Well,
of all
maybe
the
next
ones
year.
to pick,
Maybe next year.
that's the hardest one to pick.
I would say there's two. I have two answers for the surprising thing.
Gabe,
the
do you
first
have any
surprising
thoughts? Yeah.
was, sorry. The first one was that they traded Sonny Gray, which I did not expect at the beginning of the offseason for a couple of reasons. But once you traded Sonny Gray, then every other trade didn't really surprise me because that was one of, aside from Arenado, probably one of the more difficult ones because I didn't think Gray was willing to go to anywhere but by his home. But that was a wrong assumption on my part. Although I don't know, Boston's not that bad from Nashville and he can fly a plane anywhere. The other surprising thing is I've honestly not really liked a lot of his minor moves. Weirdly, I thought the Ramos pickup was weird. We really didn't need him. They were clearly intending to DFA him and hoping he snuck through to Memphis. I didn't like the Stanek move. I don't think he's a good reliever. Urias one is fine, but like you guys have said, have plenty of right-handed bats that could play third base if Gorman fails. But yeah, I don't know. I've been like kind of like tilting my head to a lot of the very minor moves where I'm like, okay, I've got to kind of squint and see the logic on this one, but I guess I could see it. That's kind of been surprising after he set kind of a high standard with the trades, in my opinion, where I was like, oh, these are really good returns for the trade for what we gave up. Brendan Donovan's a more good than great player, and I thought we got a great return for 2 years of him. And then Sonny Gray, they managed to get Brandon Clark and Fajardo. I really like Fajardo. I think he's a sleeper prospect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are the two answers, basically. The one that set what he was going to do the rest of the offseason, I didn't expect that one. And then the second one was just a lot of the minor moves I've just been like, okay, sure.
The Andre Granillo trade, which I think we're still like, what is that? What's happening there?
Yeah. Bizarre.
Hopefully they see something in Soriano that he hasn't been able to unlock, because otherwise I'm like, why did you trade a guy with...
I think I can answer a little bit of that because I can't remember where exactly the outlet, and I apologize to whoever did talk about this, but they talked about how, they valued Soriano just a little bit more than Granillo just because Soriano does have the presence of that above average changeup, like the changeup specs on it is something that Granillo does not have. Obviously, they both have the mid-90s fastball and the good biting slider, but what Granillo lacks is that third pitch and offering to kind of allow him to function against left-handed hitters or give an actual weapon against left-handed hitters, which Soriano has. And apparently the Cardinals have been trying to get Soriano a few different times throughout the offseason, but obviously because of where they landed in the waiver order, they were never actually able to get to him. So in this fashion, whenever he was designated for assignment this last time by the Nationals, the Cardinals just essentially said, screw it, and offered Granillo in exchange, because obviously after a player's been designated for assignment, that team can still work out a trade with another team for that player rather than just him being claimed. The Cardinals aren't looking at optionability as something that's going to hinder them from taking opportunities or flyers on players that they have, they see something in. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. They have other options behind him. readily available to them at the minor league level, they're willing to plug in and go forward with. The unfortunate thing is there's kind of so many of those guys at the major league level as it stands right now. Like obviously Matt Pushard is the Rule 5 guy, can't option him. Soriano's out of options. Ryan Stanek is a veteran. You can't option him without, his consent.
He does
After
not,
5 years.
Yeah.
Justin Bruhl and like Gordon Graceffo or whoever you kind of have pegged in that other bullpen spot are kind of the guys
Justin
that
Bruhl is also out of options right now.
also out of options, right? But you also have other left-handed options down there that if he doesn't work out, you really don't mind losing him. I still think there's an interesting, profile in Justin, a little bit more interesting than what John King was. But my overall point being
that's not hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah. My overall point being that there really is a lack of flexibility in the bullpen, which is surprising. But to the same extent, I think that the Cardinals, this front office group isn't looking at that as a hindrance, more so as we have numbers behind it. So if we lose this guy, we lose this guy. And that's just kind of how they're going to attack it, which I think is interesting. We can have our qualms whether or not we think that's the correct way to go about it or not. It's certainly different than what we've been accustomed to and conditioned to, expect from a modern bullpen, having the option ability and shuttling through guys. But we also have to take into account that this is a different season than what we've seen recently. Maybe the Cardinals aren't intent on, well, let me take that back. The Cardinals have been very vocal about them not being intent on trying to win every single game this season. And the idea behind having as many available, fresh, optionable arms as possible to compete on a nightly basis has been like the bar they've tried to hit. And then where the Cardinals are now, I think, they're like taking shots on guys who have interesting stuff. And they would rather see those guys try to take opportunities first. And I mean, to each their own, whether they think that's going to work or not. But
hopefully they're bringing these guys like Soriano into the organization and saying, you should do this thing differently, or you should do this way. I would expect that they're offering like a la the Rays do, trading for everyone and making suggestions to everyone. Yeah. I would assume they're grabbing these guys and trying to morph them. And yeah, I agree. If Ryan Stanek has a bad 2 months, he gone. You get rid of Ryan Stanek.
Yeah, and there could always be another epidemic of shoulder impingements or whatever, which allow you to, make a little space. Was it the Mets who got in trouble for that?
Oh no, my elbow's falling off.
Yeah, so they'll find a way. Life finds a way. We know this.
And clearly, I guess this showed a much more of a lack of faith in Grinnell than I expected, because just look, as he's come up to the system, I've kind of like been looking at him like, oh, maybe he's going to be a good reliever in the future.
Yeah, and he was the guy for a minute, Slider King or whatever. Like, we thought he was going to be the future closer. And that's where I thought, like, they must see something in Soriano. It's either they saw something in Soriano and they knew they had to trade talent to get talent, or they know something about Granillo that we don't know, and we're trying to sell high on him before the whole thing comes down. Based off of what Jake said, it sounds like it was more like they were just trading talent to just get talent. Like, let's just buy high or sell high on Granillo, but we think long-term Soriano is going to actually be better than Granillo.
I believe that's to be the case of kind of how they looked at it. And obviously at first glance, it was very like, what the hell are you guys doing? This doesn't make any sense. But obviously that's preconditioned off of what we've come to expect from the way that the previous regime had and a lot of what modern bullpens and the way that modern front offices tend to build their bullpens, very optionable and very flexible. And that type of analysis and more you can get from Viva El Birdos, but from a free site to a site that is listener supported. Let's find out about talking about birds, if you will.
Wow, that's why you're the best in the biz, Jake. That was a hell of a transition. I think you're pitching to us to promote our show, so I'll take it. Yes, thank you. So you can find anything about our show at talkingaboutbirds.com. We got the domain. It is for sale if there's a bird-related show out there that would rather have it. But, the price is going to be quite high. But anyway, talkingaboutbirds.com, you'll find links to everything. I would say before digging into the listener supported element of it, just check out the show. If you like it, we are trying to build a community around it, and we're a fully independent, doing it all our own way. So you may find yourself interested in supporting the show more directly, but I would say start with just check it out. We're on all the podcast platforms and YouTube and all of that.
You let me down, Nate. I want you guys to do the exact same thing you do on your show. I want you to throw it over to Ben. I want Ben to be like 848
Okay,
but like I want it all.
Hold on. Okay, all right. So here, hold on. Well, Ben, before we get to league news and play our little game, we must remind our listeners that this show is listener supported on patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you want to support the show and all the effort and work that goes into it every single week, now 208 episodes in a row. We've never missed a week.
Should we count this one as 209?
Should we just rip this off of their feed and post it on our episode feed? Yeah, maybe. Rebrand it, though. Check out our Patreon. We do have a bunch of different tiers. But we've already talked about the Bill DeWitt tier. But if you subscribe at the base level, you get access to our private Discord server, The Bird Scored, which is a great place. So, Hambone, where else can people find us online?
We're on all the social medias, Nate. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We have a TikTok. Check us out on TikTok. We're available on YouTube. You can watch the show on YouTube. You can find all of the podcast information at talkingaboutbirds.com. We have t-shirts available as well. You can email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And of course, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 8.
Yeah, we have a phone line, so you can text or
big
call
deal.
us. Yeah, we've got anything. It goes straight to voicemail, so you don't have to worry about me picking it up and being confused. But, you can talk to us. You can leave questions for the show, comments. We get a lot of random stuff on the phone line.
We'll take anything.
We'll take it all. Yeah.
Is the cheapest tier the Brad Thompson tier?
Excellent job. I love it, guys. And
No, I think it's the David Eckstein tier. It's the workman's tier. You're showing up every day.
Lunch pail.
Yeah, it goes up from there. Of course, we all know the tier of Cardinals starts at David Eckstein and ends at Bill DeWitt.
Natural progression.
Yep.
excellent, guys. Thank you for that. It's funny that you mentioned something in there, Nate, rebranding, and that kind of goes to our final topic before we get into our game, kind of this big philosophical thought I had. So this last week, I ate some Chinese food. St. Louis is known for its delicious Chinese cuisine, right? And
yeah, what the hell?
Just wait. My fortune cookie had this to say on it.
It's blurry,
And it
man. You're going to have
says-
to read it for us.
It's fine. All progress occurs because people dare to be different, right?
Wow.
And so that put me in a very deep thought. And I started to wonder, and nobody's asking this question, and probably for good reason. Why would they? But not only in the spirit of being different, but nobody's asking this question, and let's talk about it. Are the Cardinals rebuilding or rebranding? Right? So when I asked the question, the Cardinals have incessantly pushed back against the notion that they are quote unquote rebuilding, right? And we know this to be evident because they traded away all of their veteran players. No longer do you see Nolan Arenado, Sonny Gray, Wilson Contreras, all of these stars that we've come to know. The Cardinals have famously, touted that they've had a Hall of Famer on their staff every year for the last 100 years, right? That's been a thing. And now that is in question unless you truly believe that Mason Wynn is on a Hall of Fame trek. And, who's to say, but it's kind of hard to say that at this point that is reality. And so from that standpoint, pretty evidently and obviously seems like a rebuild. But we also know that the Cardinals and their media market size and the way that they are able to pay players or invest in their team is not at the same level as the Dodgers, the Mets, the Phillies, all of these big market teams that can afford to pay for all of these big name stars. And, Cardinals fans long for and ache for the days of Albert Pujols and Jim Edmonds and Scott Rowland and Reggie Sanders and Larry Walker and Chris Carpenter and Adam, and you go down the list and it's a team laden of all-stars. And we hope that all of these young players come up and wind up being that someday. But I asked the question, are the Cardinals rebranding themselves into a team more in the model of the Tampa Bay Rays, the Cleveland Guardians, the Milwaukee Brewers, right? Are they going to build their team and rebrand themselves as a team that will consistently punch above its weight class, not financially, but how they build going forward, right? Chaim Bloom famously builds and attacks the margins, the slightest margins that he can find any slight advantage on for the roster. And the Cardinals traditionally under John Mozeliak couldn't give a flying crap less about the margins. Sure, we'll throw a 38-year-old Matt Carpenter and the 26th man on the bench and he's good for vibes and maybe one good pinch hit a year. Whereas now it's, I don't know, Ramon Urias, Jose Fermin, like whoever is at the very end of this bench has a little bit more upside to them. Their ceiling at the beginning of the season doesn't start as high as it once did, but perhaps the element of surprise and the upside could push them up to something that nobody saw coming. So I asked this question because nobody's asking this question right now, right? Are the Cardinals rebuilding and this is just a lost year? Or are the Cardinals rebranding themselves as a smaller market team and is going to win on the unexpected margin basis and not necessarily come out of nowhere? But I don't think anyone can argue that this team is devoid of talent because I think there are talented players on this roster, but they lack proven production, which everyone and projection models really lean into, right? So I guess my overall question is, are the Cardinals rebranding or are they rebuilding?
It's a good question, Jake. Let me answer your question with a question of my own. What's your Chinese food order?
Peanut butter chicken, white rice, crab rangoon.
Great order.
Peanut butter
Okay.
chicken?
Wait, did you say peanut butter chicken?
Yes.
Never heard of
Yeah,
it.
I don't think
it's
Yeah.
delicious.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
delicious.
Well,
Sold.
Sounds good. I do like peanut butter and chicken. So, all right, let me answer your question, or I'll throw at it first, and then you guys go. It is an interesting question, Jake. Like, we last year we were inundated with different words for what the Cardinals are doing right now. Is it a rebuild? Is it a retool? Are they going for it, etc.? And this year they've mostly avoided that sort of language. But as far if it's a rebrand, I think to start with that, you almost have to. I think it's helpful to define what was the Cardinal brand then. To me, the Cardinal brand, at least of the last, my Cardinal fandom, the last 20 years or so, was of homegrown players that focus on pitching and defense and quote unquote play the game the right way. And then it is the roster's obviously augmented with stars one way or another, acquired through trade or something like that. But the core of the team was a draft and develop team, and that's how the Cardinals got to compete with the big league, with the big, obviously money's bigger now than it's ever been, but it's always been a thing, right? And so the Cardinals competing with the high dollar markets was by having a Dave Duncan who could flip any pitcher and make him good, etc. So it's only the last few years where they got really away from that, when they were trying to like Frankenstein championship teams with your Lance Lynn's and Gibsons and stuff like that, and they started to lose it. So I don't really see what Chaim Bloom is doing as a rebrand, because I'm also assuming that when the Cardinals are competitive again, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, deserve it or not. I expect the DeWitts will be willing to add on in the right way with some good free agents when that moment makes sense. And I suspect that this version of a successful Cardinal team will look like the ones in 2013, 2011, 2005, 2006. Yes, some stars acquired one way or another, but also the majority of the team was drafted and developed or traded for at a young age. And I don't know how that is ultimately different just because Chaim Bloom is doing it. they're probably going to strike out more guys than the Cardinals ever did. I think that's probably different. But I don't really think of it as a rebrand. I don't know, Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I think what a rebrand. So, like, are the Cardinals becoming the Rays? I don't think so. I will say when Chaim Bloom was first brought on, I think Nate and I talked about that. Like, that's kind of my biggest, like, Cardinal specific existential fear is that they become the Rays, and the Rays are obviously a model franchise. They do great things, but can you name one of their outfielders right now? I think I got one, and I can't even remember his last name. Chandler
Simpson.
There we go.
Simpson.
Chandler Simpson.
Cedric
we
Mullins, Jacob
There you go.
Melton.
Look at you.
We love the Rays, and I know they went to the World Series in 2020, but like they haven't really done it for a while now, right? Like their model, like they field competitive teams for very low dollar amounts, but it's been a while since they've been what they were, you know.
I think like you were kind of talking about this, Nate, like define what the Cardinals brand is, and it's draft and develop, right? Like every team wants that to be their brand. And I think the Cardinals probably held on to aging stars for too long and tried to prop guys up, and they forgot about pitching for way too long, and didn't develop a pitcher for far too long. So no, I don't think that they're going to go that direction. I think that they are saving the DeWitts tons and tons of money right now. But like I said earlier, Chaim Bloom convinced them to spend their money in a different way to acquire young players. And a lot of teams that are trying to brand as a small market team, like the Brewers can't really do that. The Rays can't really do that. Other small market teams can't do things like that, throw cash behind Nolan Arenado. So no, I think I'm going to be optimistic until proven wrong. I think what's going to happen, or what I hope is going to happen, is that JJ and some of these other guys are going to develop, get better. The team's going to look competitive, and then we're going to go get a rock solid first baseman through free agency, or a starting pitcher or something like that, a couple of guys to augment the roster and push in to be productive, that small market teams don't really have the availability to do that. I will say, you know, John Henry brought in Chaim Bloom to the Red Sox to save money. I'm sure the DeWitts had a similar conversation. To what degree? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be slash to Guardians level payroll, though. Or at least I really hope not.
To defend the Rays not being good in a while, Wander Franco did happen or did not happen.
that is a great
help.
point.
That certainly didn't help.
A lot for
That
them.
is a great point.
Yeah, that's gonna spiral a franchise a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with all your guys' points that they're kind of returning back to the basics in a different way, admittedly, but they're going back to draft and develop. I think things kind of lined up pretty perfectly for DeWitt and Bloom, where it made sense to shed payroll and obviously to accumulate talent. And it would have looked really bad if they like gave away the entire contracts and didn't get a good return. So it works out for the owners too, because if our payroll was like 40 million, I don't know what our actual on-field payroll is, but it would be probably embarrassing a PR perspective for the DeWitts. So it made sense all around. And I think things just lined up really well in that respect. Rebuild is not really a dirty word. Everything the Cardinals have done this offseason has been a rebuilding move.
Yeah.
They traded away big contracts. They've gotten a bunch of prospects back. They made minor little moves that have an eye towards the future. Even the Dustin May signing was intended to bring back prospects at the deadline. That he's not really a long-term guy. Maybe you could even argue Urias is that kind of move too. He returned something at the deadline last year, very minor piece, but sometimes those minor pieces can become something. You never know.
Matt Swanson.
Yeah, right. Exactly. DeYoung, who would have thought at the beginning of the 2022 season, we would have got our next higher leverage reliever for Paul DeYoung.
Yeah.
You never know how things are going to shake out. You don't know who's going to get injured. So I could see the argument in that perspective. But yeah, I think rebuild is they're rebuilding clearly. Now they might be better than what a typical rebuilding team is going to be because they have Mason Wynn. They have a lot of talent kind of on the roster that are trying to break through. And most rebuilding teams, when you call them rebuilding teams, are like completely barren, or whoever they trade is making more of a damage to the roster than what the Cardinals is, because Sonny Gray had a 4.28 ERA. Whoever replaces him, that's achievable. As good as Sonny Gray is, I know his advanced stats are significantly better than that, but the on-field results were just kind of okay. Nolan Arenado, well past his prime. Wilson Contreras, okay, that one's going to be a loss on the bat especially. I don't see a replacement for Wilson Contreras. And Donnie hopefully will be replaced by JJ Weatherall. Maybe not in a positional versatility way, but overall production. So most of the time, rebuilding teams do not have guys that step in like JJ Weatherall. They don't have the guy they trade provide as little as Nolan Arenado did last year.
Yeah.
We're still going to return. So I think we just like hesitate to call it a rebuilding situation because you see significantly more future talent on the Cardinals than you typically do when you call somebody a rebuilding team, like the Astros or the Cubs when they were rebuilding.
Yeah.
They were like truly terrible.
And that was like the Cubs came out, and I think the Astros both at some point, or maybe just one of them, said this is a 5-year project, which is such a request from your fan base. I think it was the Astros, but obviously that has worked out quite well for them. They've been one of the best teams in baseball for like 10 years straight now. But yeah, I think it's pretty clearly a rebuild. And Gabe, I think that's a great point. Like if you look at Zip's projections, we had Dan Zaborski on the show a few weeks ago to talk about the Cardinals Zips projections. They're not that bad, for having traded basically all of your best players. I was expecting it to be more like the Pacoda predictions, which is the Cardinals winning 66 games. Zips has them somewhere right in the mid 70s, which means you could actually outlier up into the 80s. Very unlikely, I know, but like that's there. And you could also slide down into the 60s. But the point being, if your first year of your full rebuild, you're already winning mid 70s games, you don't have to. It's a much cleaner hill to climb than like what the White Sox are trying to do right now, or the Rockies, or any other punching bag team coming at you.
Now,
Ben.
why would you call the Rockies a punching bag team?
Well, he's wearing his Expos hat right now, which is honestly, that's cool. We like that. We do like it. He's looking around frantically for his Colorado Rockies.
It's here
hat.
somewhere.
He looks lost in his own.
Hey, we got Michael Lorenzen. Okay, shut up.
It's a great point. Dave Podesta, one of the smartest guys in baseball at one point.
At one point, yeah.
No, but so to kind of tie this all together, I guess my question really philosophically comes down to, and not like, do they become a feeder team for the rest of the league like the Rays, right? That's not kind of the impetus of my thought process. More so like the Guardians and the Brewers, they're able to win with less, right? And we've taken from those teams, well, at least from the Guardians, from the Mariners, like we've brought in a lot of the, those guys to be in the organization now. And so I asked the question, are the Cardinals, because they're not going to have the big TV package like they had in the past, gate revenue is down now. Again, Chaim Bloom famously in his introductory press conference said that, like you had sort of referenced around, Nate, and when we think about the short term and the long term, we're always going to weigh the long term first. But he also said the little caveat at the end, but we anticipate to concede nothing. Right. And so that part still continues to echo in the back of my brain as like, what exactly does he mean by they're not going to concede anything? Do they still internally believe that they could do more than what the general public believes in them for? And like, for obvious reasons across the board, all of the PR moves, or at least the moves that are PR related, we're sending veteran players out. Right. And so I continue to wonder, because I look at this team and I don't see the same level of like the White Sox, like you referenced, like the Rockies, like I think the Nationals this year, like the floor is going to fall out and it's going to be ugly. Right. And so I think when I look at the Cardinals, they have enough young pitching at or near the top of, or at the MLB level. And like generally, if you have that kind of pitching, you have a fairly safe floor. Now, it's not like altogether proven pitching talent, but it is pitching talent that has shown in the past some interestingness. So like Dustin May,
it's like eight number fours, right? So you're never scared. It's never a bad thing to have a number 4 up on the mound, but you're also never like, all right, this is the game we're going to win. But you're like, maybe we'll get away with this one, and that's kind of how the whole season, I think, is going to be like, all right, we're going to get away with this one. And we'll probably get away with it more than some people are feeling right now, because I do think there's certainly some talent on this team.
I don't anticipate them being a playoff team where it stands right now. So I want to make it abundantly clear that, like, I'm not trying to, put lipstick on a pig or prop up something that I don't actually see as that. But I still feel like why I bring this topic up is because I don't see it being talked about anywhere, right? Nobody is talking about, could this team be more than what we're kind of expecting right now? And again, kind of referencing my stupid little sliver of paper that means absolutely nothing. Dare to be different. Ask the question that nobody's asking, and, maybe it changes the discourse around the team just a little bit. But that was kind of that'll be that's the title of my article coming out on Tuesday, is kind of exploring that and talking through that and just kind of getting everyone's kind of baseline thoughts on that for the season. Because again, when you actually ask yourself the question and not just go, yeah, of course it's a rebuild, stupid, what are you talking about? And you actually like dig and think about it and like sit back and run through all of it in your brain, you're like, maybe there could be more to this than we're expecting, but with the added caveat that, like, Nolan Gorman has to have a career year, Jordan Walker has to establish himself, Victor Scott has to, find offensive stability, JJ Weatherholt has to be as good as advertised or better whenever he comes up, Alec Burleson has to take that next step, Ivan Herrera has to stay healthy. Like,
you sound like John Mozeliak.
Here's the thing.
It's a Rube Goldberg machine of like, well, of course, the bowling pin's going to roll down and hit the little ducky, right? Of course, the little ducky is going to spray water onto and it's going to be perfect. It's going to be incredible.
But here's the thing. When ifs become answers is kind of like the baseline, is my baseline for that, right? So if the Cardinals are able to take some of these ifs and turn them into answers, inevitably that the ceiling goes up a little bit. And that's kind of what I'm saying is like, previously with the player development that was, existing, we never really thought they were going to get to where they are. But with a new regime, a new group, new thinking, new thoughts and ideas involved, maybe a couple of those guys that we weren't entirely sure could ever get to what their ceiling was, maybe now it's a little more realistic. I don't know. It's going to be an open-ended question until the end of the season, in my opinion, because honestly, that question can't really be answered until we play the games and get to where we're going to go. But just to kind of take the temperature on where we are and where everything is, I thought was more than reasonable to at least ask the question and kind of take the temperature on where everyone is.
They could be good this year, but probably not.
Sure. Yeah. I
I think we're more likely to be surprised by like Alec Burleson trade conversations at the deadline than the Cardinals pushing in further. I mean, the scenario that they're young. Anything can happen.
Yeah. There's been worse teams who have surprised everyone and had really good seasons. Like we're optimistic fans. We want it. I'm going into the season like, let's see what happens. Let's have some fun.
I don't even think the position player group is the limiting factor. I think it's the pitching. Like, we broke down that bullpen earlier, and kind of the ceiling of who we expect to be starting most games, whether they do a 5-man or 6-man rotation. You're just going to have to let Quinn Matthews and Liam Doyle and whatever other pitching prospects you like cook and hopefully adjust. Like, I don't know, maybe Kyle Leahy will be good. Maybe.
We have
what if Matthew Liberatore puts it together for the whole season?
Yeah,
that would be
great. What if Dustin May regains what he was whenever he was a prospect, not even whenever he was a Dodger, what many thought he would be as a player, right? Like he's put 20 pounds of muscle back on
now.
Right. Yeah. There is no salad bar in the Cardinals
game for him. You know what I mean? Like
I'll chew his salad for him all year.
Yeah.
So
we're here we want this team to be good. Also, frankly, as podcasters, you guys get it. As someone who we restarted our show in 2022, which was a great year to restart a Cardinal podcast. But it has been a few years now of less fun covering the Cardinals. So I'm looking forward to a good Cardinal season.
It should give us good discussion topics, if nothing else, honestly.
Well, That has been the case. There's certainly been no lack of things to talk about over the last few years. And this off season has been quite a gift. You know, we run all year, all off season, and often our January episodes are more chaotic than the others. But we've had actual baseball stuff to talk about this time.
Show's
Talking
always
about
packed.
the Golden Globes or the Emmys or whatever. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on out there, you know.
Anyway, so to kind of wrap up the show in a very talking about birds fashion, you know, after you listen to this episode, please make sure you guys go and check out Talking About Birds. It's a wonderful listen, especially if you're working out or if you're going for a walk or if you're, you know, mindlessly doing something around the house, getting chores done. It's a great listen. It makes doing tedious tasks that much more fun. And these guys really do. I enjoy them. I really do. And I, you know, I would not bring it to you, the VEB listeners, if I did not think that it was something worth investing your time in. Ben and Nate do a great job. And to finish off the show, what these guys do at the end of every show of theirs is they play a little game, right? And so you either have this stupid game that Nate will think up in his head and he'll force Ben to participate in against his will pretty much. And you can hear the grumbling and the frustration and
it's great every time.
To shut up. And sometimes Ben enjoys them, I think, like sneakily, but sometimes it's evident and clear he's like, man, Nate, why did you do this to me? And so we're gonna play one of your guys' most often requested in the Birds Chord, and one of the most entertaining. We're gonna play Who Is This Guy?
Okay. All right. Nice.
So
Okay.
Nate, if you could do your little spiel on the game of Who Is This Guy? Give us your little rundown, and then you guys will be the participants, and I will you know, play the role as host for you.
Okay. So who is this guy? Jake has the name of, assuming you're doing it like exactly like we do it on the show, Jake, is it a Cardinal player?
Yes.
Okay. So Jake has
Yes.
the name of a player, someone who at some point in their career has played Major League Baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals. Jake is going to give a clue about who they are, and then we have to guess who that is. The clue is going to start very vague and get increasingly specific until we either get it right or lose by Jake having given us all the clues.
Cuss him out.
Yeah.
Any anger.
Yeah. So should we establish a, you know, like who guesses first kind of thing, or just everyone thought it?
Buzz in with your name.
We get a little lag tonight, Ben. That might be a little challenging, but
okay.
Yeah.
I think Jake, just throw out the clue, and whoever wants to guess at it, and we'll just see where it goes.
Okay. All right. So fact number one of this player. This player played 11 professional seasons with the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Mariners.
Can you say it one more time, please?
This player played 11 professional seasons with the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Mariners collectively.
11 seasons. Okay.
Wait, 11? Shit. Okay, well, I have a guess. I think it's wrong, though. I'll just go. Colton
for it.
Wong.
Damn!
It drives you crazy, doesn't it, Jake?
That was incredible.
Yeah, so I like this game a lot, but I'll spend like 25 minutes prepping it, and Ben will get it on the first one. So it can be.
That felt good. That felt real good.
You did a lot of work. What are the other clues you had? I'm just curious.
Yes, I did do a lot of work. The second clue was this player was a 2-time Gold Glove Award winner. This player was drafted 22nd overall in the 2011 MLB draft. This player retired in May of 2025. And then like the most like give it away clue, this player famously nicknamed himself the Pebble to spoof Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Nice.
I did not know that, honestly. I didn't know that last part.
Oh, well, see. But
I think I would have gotten it at
Colton Wong.
I think I would have gotten it at the draft pick one, because I actually somehow remember watching that draft. I think it was one of the first ones that they were televising, maybe, or I just happened to have it on. But I remember watching the Cardinals select Colton Wong, and then honestly probably going to Viva El Birdos to read about it and being like, what they took a tiny second baseman. What
Yeah, the response was underwhelming. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And he was not supposed to be a glove first either. I remember he was a back first, second baseman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like obviously I
worked
had
out.
to find a way to skirt around the like whole Hawaii thing because that would have given
Sure.
it away immediately. So,
Greg
but
Garcia.
again, the reason I chose Colton Wong was because it was reported that he will be in Cardinals camp this week with Adam Wainwright,
Oh,
with
hell yeah.
Yadier Molina. Like, so he's joining the returning group of players to kind of work with the kids. So that's why I chose Colton Wong. But
One of
Yeah.
my favorite players to
you
watch
guys,
when he was on the
Nate,
team.
for sure. Nate, Ben, thank you guys so much for being here. We really do appreciate you joining us for this episode of the Viva El Birdos podcast. Again, guys, make sure you go follow at Talking About Birds on all of the social media platforms like these guys referenced in the past. Please make sure you go and listen to the episodes that they've previously recorded. Give them a shot. They, it's worth your time. There's an entertainment value that goes along with good Cardinal baseball talk. Ben and Nate both really love getting into the numbers and the analytics. They get past just surface level information. It's the best of both worlds. You can be entertained with information, and something we aspire to do here on
Thanks, everyone.